Harbor Planning Commission to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Adams,
Present.
Commissioner Archibald, Commissioner Bell,
Present.
Commissioner Henry,
Present.
Commissioner Hensel,
Present.
Commissioner Marshall,
Here.
Manager Little,
Here.
Mayor Mohammed, Chairman Reed.
Present.
You have a quorum.
At this time, I would like to rearrange the agenda to make the site plan review for 400 Riverview Drive as the last item of business for today. There's a possibility that Mr. Franks could potentially show up before the end of the meeting. If not, then I would suggest that we table it at that time, if it leads to that. So is there a motion to rearrange the agenda so that the site plan
Motion to
review?
rearrange. May I ask a question, Chief?
Yes, ma'am.
I know, I apologize for not being here last meeting, but I was sick. But why is this being, I kind of heard why it was postponed. But now you're saying that it's a possibility to be postponed again?
We don't normally do site plans without the person who site plan is not here.
I don't know.
Are you suggesting that we move ahead with the site plan?
I'm just asking you, why is it that we dropped the shoe and the ball all at the same time and it's not going through again? See, certain projects come to this board here and we just pass it through.
Okay,
So I'm asking now, why is this project not been pushed through? And I understand some part of it, but I really need your expertise on it.
I don't have all my paperwork in front of me, but I'm gonna walk you through this. Repurposing a building is permitted, and what he wanted to do was to have a restaurant on the first level with upper story residential. Now, it says here on table 2.5.2, upper story residential in the district is permitted. So we move forward with it. However, in the planned development part, it says there will be no development within 100 feet of the river. So his property above that is in that area. So if they don't have a planned development, we can't develop it. So we had to get an opinion from the city attorney. Can we proceed based strictly on the table? Or should we go by the planned development rule that says there can be no development within 100 feet of the river? So she said that since it's permitted, we should approve it.
Okay.
That's to prevent any legal. But now, a week ago, they had the riverfront mediation and potential developments. And he was at that meeting, so he's aware of what those potential development could be. So we said that we will proceed with the site plan approval here because it's permitted. But we were going to recommend to him that he not do any worthwhile development within that 100-foot distance until the planned development comes out. And since we're doing zoning review, we didn't want to put just him under a planned development. The entire riverfront would be under a planned development. And therefore, we would not be showing him any preference over anyone else along the riverfront.
Okay. With all due respect, Chairman Reed, I did hear you say that we had gotten the attorney's opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we would still need the developer here,
That's the way we normally
and,
do it.
and that makes sense to me. If
Then
we
we'll
get,
make a presentation.
I mean, and that makes sense to move the item to the bottom of the list with the hopes that he would show up.
Yeah.
So we don't have to keep going over the same thing over and over.
Correct.
Thank you.
May I ask this question? Is mixed use development allowed in general commercial districts?
It would be mixed use. So that would be, is mixed use allowed for this type of development?
Is in general, it is my understanding that that area is general commercial. And we're talking about mixed-use development in a general commercial area. Is that appropriate?
So isn't that what we're doing? We're zoning it?
What I'm
Because we
saying
put
is
that in the
two-
master plan.
It's two separate categories. Mixed use is a separate zoning category all by itself, and the others are separate. You don't commingle the two together.
But this is, if I'm,
If you're speaking to, can he have upper story residential? Mixed use would be yes. Planned development would be yes.
so you're saying it's appropriate to put mixed-use development in general commercial area? Or is that what you're saying?
Mr.
Upper
Chairman, can I?
story development is allowed in both, according to. Okay.
I have a question. So according to the project description, you have three uses. So it's commercial on the ground floor, an office and residential on the upper floor, if I read that right. So you have three uses taking place.
And this is the question that we referred to the attorney, who looked at what was currently there, what was being requested, and the issue that was being raised about planning or development. And she said that it was appropriate to go ahead as it currently is because the current zoning would permit it.
And then it actually just makes sense. We
Yeah.
want everybody in walkable, everything accessible where we live, where we,
If he's gonna show up, we're gonna give him until the end of this meeting.
I make a motion to move that item to the bottom of
Support.
the agenda.
Motion's made by Commissioner Adams and supported by Alex.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Manager Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Agenda item number 4, approval of the minutes for the June 4th meeting. Have there been any changes, deletions, or additions? If not, I need a motion for approval of the minutes.
Second.
Oh, super.
Who made the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were ready. I'll move to approve it.
I'll second.
Alex made the motion to approve. Commissioner Bell, support.
Manager Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry, Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, we'll open the meeting for public comment. You got 3 minutes. Anybody in the public wishing to speak? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment section and move on to new business. We'll move to agenda item V, which is the 880 Riverview Yavo Park Pavilion.
Yes.
Give us an update, please.
Yes, I'd be glad to update on this. I asked, as you, I'm sure all aware, Whirlpool has been working with the city now for several years on doing its parks. And first year was Union Park, last year was June Woods Park, this year it's Yarborough Park. She has come to the several parks committee meetings with different outlines and presentations of how the park could be improved and upgraded, and gotten input from the commissioners and the public regarding that. The last one they had, I think, was, she did a presentation several weeks ago with it. We basically told her that it wasn't necessary to be here. We're not really doing, it's the city's part, we're not really doing a site plan as such, but I wanted to have presented to you so you know what's happening, what's going on in the park. Generally, just this past week, they had their Day of Impact, which they've done for each of the parks as they come. At this Day of Impact, they had about 100 Whirlpool employees who volunteered and came out. They were raking, cutting grass, doing the edging along the walks, cleaning out leaves and junk from under the bushes and trimming and doing everything they could to try to make the park look as nice as they could. Commissioner Henderson was out there, I was, Rona and Tamika, who were sprucing up the park and so forth. Their plan is to put a bathroom pavilion up near the southeast corner, right? In from where the roundabout is, a touch base with the city to get the appropriate setback in terms of how far they need to be from the curb and so forth on it. They've got a contractor that's monitoring this job for them. They're going to get started on that bathroom pavilion relatively shortly. And later on, they're going to also put a fish cleaning station down there at the site. They have conferred with Mrs. Yarborough regarding what she would like to see in the park that carries her husband's name, and gotten input from her as well as just about everybody that she could. And I think you've got passed out to you today in the packet, I believe, some information on it. Is there not?
Yes.
And it kind of generally gives you an idea of just what they're planning on trying to do. We also touching base with some of the adjoining property owners, or not really adjoining, across the street, about utilizing some areas for spillover parking when it's needed. And that we're still working on, because we realize that that park actually was designed not for real heavy use, but the parking that's built in there sometimes proves inadequate, especially if they've got events down there. So we're looking for additional parking to try. Excuse me, one moment. Yes, sir? Okay. All right. Thanks very much. I appreciate that. That was a call that reached Mr. Frank's wife, and she's going to call him to try to get him there. Oh. All right. But in any event, that's basically what is going on with Yarborough Park, and I'm sure when it's all completed and done, it's going to be, I think it's going to be beautiful and very utilitarian for our people who use it. We are also in communications with Eagle about the boat ramp. There to do some sprucing up and spicing up of that boat ramp too, which is right next to it. So, any questions anyone has?
When will they begin construction of it?
They should be beginning construction within a matter of weeks on the bathroom pavilion. Just actually last Thursday, We had people out working with them showing where the connection for the sanitary sewer is. That's in the middle of Riverview Drive there where they'll be connecting.
Yes, are we talking two pavilions?
Actually, it sounds like two pavilions because that one in the middle that's already there with the kind of drape type thing on it, that's one pavilion. But they're going to replace and replenish that
Okay.
particular one. But this is actually, referred to as a pavilion, but actually it's restrooms with an
Okay.
overhang where they'll put some
Okay.
picnic tables underneath and so forth that can be used.
And that makes sense.
Mhm.
I know that when it came through planned economic development, the bathrooms were facing inward towards the park
Yes. Mhm.
for access of people being visually able to see the children that may be in and out.
Right.
But I guess that makes sense too. So it's, the pavilion itself is like an add-on to the restroom.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
I was confused. Bathroom is a bathroom and pavilion.
And we actually asked them to put it there. They initially were looking at more toward the center of that end, but we expressed the concern that for events like the Riverfest and whatnot, when they put something like that, we need people to have maximum view of where it is. And if it was sitting there, that it would block the view of many people. But by putting it in the end like that, it's out of the way. It doesn't block the view. It's convenient.
Okay, I heard you mention something about there's an existing pavilion here, or it's something that's small, but not an actual pavilion, but going to turn it into one.
Actually, just going to repair it and replace.
Okay.
You might recall right where the kiddie play
Mhm.
equipment is there, right off of there is a thing that has sort of like a draping.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna be
I guess
redone.
I just mentioned that because I think that in our planning, even when we were planning the park out here, it seems like it's a waste of money, and we can sometimes do things that can save money, like adding in a stage. Like if there's a pavilion where there's going to be performing, that a rail could actually, I mean, the roof area could be so high as to where, that's one less thing somebody would have to put up. Just like they put the stage up, and take stages up and down here in the park, one could have been actually built into what's going on.
There were discussions in the early
But that-
parts about stages, but for whatever reason, it was not kept in.
I'm all for the growth of,
Okay, if there's no more,
let me make a comment about this project, Mr. Little. And we probably had this during Union, the construction of Union rehab. And since Union, I did some more research on the rubber that they're using in the playground. They were not, at least, I won't say they weren't truthful. They might have not did enough research on it. But, after doing my research, that rubber is not safe for children. Two things. There's a vapor that comes off of it when it's heated up, and it heats up to 150 whatever it is, degrees on a hot day. And the kids are out there jumping around in it, trying to keep their feet, their rubber shoes from burning just like the rubber is. So I need to reach out to, I'm reaching out to the right person right now. But we definitely need to look at that a lot closer, because we already installed it in 2 parks, and we need to know if, right,
We will look into that.
thank you.
And I do want to add, because I don't want to leave the meeting with the impression that that's something that's being considered for the future. That material was spread last week, but we will still look into it. I'll
Well,
get the specifications and so forth on it, and we'll look into it and bring a report back.
if you look at the temperature, you can actually test the temperature. So one of the residents brought it to my attention, because I believed Whirlpool knew what they were talking about, and they did full research on it, because we're talking about children. So, lesson learned for me, but we need to really do some serious research on that.
We will look at it, I'm sure they'll help with that, because they wouldn't want to do anything that would be harmful anyway.
I would also look into what would happen if there were flooding on Riverview. That and just the seepage into the groundwater of the chemicals that leach out as part of the process of the sun deteriorating the spandex.
I mean, the same thing applies to asphalt of what you just described. Does the same thing?
It also cost factors and a whole bunch of other stuff, you know, that
Yes, it's better than.
But I mean, it's getting into our fish, which is important. I mean, I brought that up.
I'm hearing everything you're saying, okay?
In reference to the question about flooding, just a reminder in case you're not aware, but I think you are aware, we have right now a study underway that is being funded by an EAGLE grant, specifically looking into the high water impact along Riverview Drive. That area is within, I believe, the 500-year floodplain, but we don't typically get literal flooding over the top, but we do get water table rising up in that area, which could or could not have some impact. But nevertheless, we'll investigate and look into all of that. It's a reasonable question, and we'll try to find out what the answers are.
Okay. There's no more discussion, we move on to, agenda item 6C, appointment of officers. Each fiscal year, we have an election to determine whether or not we will retain our current, officers or we can go further business. This time, I would like to open up the meeting for a nomination for chairman of the planning commission. Do you have any nominations?
We nominate the chairman.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion is made to retain the current chairman, and it's supported, motion is made by Commissioner Henry and supported by Alex.
So do we get to nominate anybody else? Because I would nominate, I'm all for young leadership. And I would nominate Ms. Bell.
For what office?
Yes, support the nomination.
For what office?
Well,
Support.
For what office?
Co-chair, I mean, what offices
You
are,
change the rules now.
no, I'm not changing the rules.
we're accepting nominations for the chairman and commissioner.
Oh, just chairman.
We call her
Oh, I
question.
do not accept.
We have a nomination, recommendation in a second.
And
We
there's
a vote.
no discussion. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Adams,
As for accepting absence of the.
Retaining the
Yes.
chair as the chair.
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
I vote maybe. Yes.
Manager Little,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
It's just so young ears can hear.
Mama used to say, it's a poor dog, don't wag his own tail.
At this time, we would like to, nominations for the vice chairman position.
Oh,
Do we have any nominations for vice chairman?
I nominate Ms. Bell. I second.
Nomination for Commissioner Bell, made by Commissioner Adams, supported by Commissioner Henry. Discussion, accept.
No, thank you. Call for the question. She said no. She said no.
Let me step it here.
And in the absence, I would recommend Rich Hensel.
I second.
Motion is made by Alex to retain Vice Chairman Richard Hensel and supported by.
I'll support. Oh, I made it, I'm sorry.
He made it and he supported.
I support it.
Was there Commissioner Marshall support? Accept the.
Sure. Thank you.
Any discussion? Open the vote.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall, Manager Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
This time we would like to accept nominations for secretary.
I nominate Ms. Bell.
I second.
Commissioner Bell.
Support.
Commissioner Bell has been nominated by Commissioner Hensel and supported by Commissioner Adams. Do you accept?
Yes.
Okay, we got it. Okay, would you call for the vote, please?
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Manager Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Refer to agenda item 7, old business. Monthly absence report of the members. Commissioner Archibald did not call for an excuse, so he's absent without permission.
Chairman. We're going into old business and not going back up to the site review plan for review. Mr. Frank.
We hold that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, this time we would like to have an update for Project T.
Project T is near the final stages of the agreement to close on the first parcel, which is, I believe, 960 Agard. That's the part bounded by Empire, Union, Weld, and the abandoned portion of Agard. The second part of that project, which is the 807 Weld part, which is down on the Weld Street side from Agard going east toward Colfax, has been separated from it, and the option extended on that because there was some contamination that was discovered by the environmental review that was done on it. And the city is to get that cleared up and so forth so that they can move forward. Now, aside from the purchase agreement and the extension on the well part, there has also been a brownfield plan that's been accepted by the Brownfield Authority, along with approval for tax capture on phase one of the project, which is the 14 duplexes that would be in the center of the 968 guard part. At the top end of that parcel, top end toward Empire, is where the 4-story, 39-unit rental units will be built. That's phase 2. Phase 3 is the Wells Street part that we just talked about extending on. It was agreed that we would provide up to 2.1 million financing to be repaid with a capture of taxes on phase 1 only, the portion that has 14 duplexes. The phase 2 and phase 3 would not be involved in the capture. At this point, I believe the last documents we did with them moved the closing up to around September 15, and it's anticipated and hoped that by that time they'll be ready to start construction of the project.
Mr. Little, which one of the projects got brownfield?
Project T,
Yeah, but the whole project or phase 1?
phase 1,
So phase 1 got,
14 duplexes.
right,
Yes.
and on the contaminated land, that's gonna be more duplexes if possible.
I believe it says 8 to 10 houses, possible single-family houses, because if you recall from the point at which they established a joint venture with Renovari, Renovari is to do the LLC, which they form, will do all of the duplexes and rental units, but I believe Habitat is going to do the 8 to 10 units on the Wells Street portion. And you may recall, those are to be low income. Those are going to be aimed at 30 to, I believe, 60% AMI.
They'll have to come back with us on that plan, somebody.
They definitely would have to, because again, that all will ensue after we complete the cleanup and do a closing with them on it and things.
And then phase 2, where Empire and I thought I heard you say 4 stories.
I
But I
believe that
remember
it's 4.
3.
It's been 4 along, I believe. We get 39 rental units in there. Yeah, we've never said
Are
less.
they asking for any tax incentives or credit?
No, as a matter of fact, part of the agreement when we took it through Brownfield is that there will be no Brownfield financing on the other 2 phases.
Thank you, sir.
I had I remember, unless there's been a change, we approved duplexes on the Weld Street side. And that Habitat's design is the same design that they're using on all of the other duplexes. They're just going to build them themselves, whatever that number was. So they'll be more or less from the street, they will look exactly the same. So I think that's an important detail, but that was something that we approved. So unless there's been a change.
They'll be coming back with whatever has to be done because of that separation of it.
I'll be so glad when this, Mercy District is done.
Okay, if there's no other comments, I would like to move on to the site plan review for the 400 Riverview Drive. That would be ID 11-51-5-0036-03-0, better known as 400 Riverview Drive. Mr. Frank, would like to give us a brief description of this project you have. Can you step up to the mic, please?
It's the one right there in the front.
This project is a 16 condo site with one commercial. Our goals for that main floor to be a restaurant.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're white boxing it for now. We don't have anybody. We've talked to a few people, local, but we have nothing in stone yet. But I think as the project goes on, it'll kind of motivate them to get a visual on what's happening. We've had Eagle permit for a boardwalk on the front of the property.
When you say front, are we facing
I'm sorry,
Riverview?
water side.
Water side?
Yeah.
And you did attend a meeting 2 weeks ago when they were discussing potential development of the riverfront.
We went to that meeting. Yeah, that's like down the road though.
But you are aware of that?
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Frank?
Is this intended to be, the boardwalk you're talking about, available to the public?
We want it to be available to the public. We just don't want to trash it, so that's, right now, we're allowing people to still use the bank. A lot of people fish there, and we like to see that. There's probably 80% of the people that use it well, and, I get 20% of the people cleaning their cars out there, so we'll see tomorrow night at fireworks. Last year, we spent probably $1,500 cleaning up debris from there's been some random parties in the parking lot.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's been a long-standing covenant on that, that the banks along there would be always available to the public.
Yeah,
I think that's important to be known.
Yeah, we want it to be, and as of right now, that's our plan. I know that Cornerstone owns a second piece of land after us that goes from 400 Riverview to the transient dock. It's about, I think they have about 860 feet.
We're aware, but I'm saying all along there, it has to be public. Even on the part of the marina that's there, that boardwalk is public.
Yeah, again, I think that we want it to be that way, but I don't think ours is designated for any kind of public. We own that. Fisherman's Wharf was when Whirlpool had that, I remember when the Whirlpool meetings were taking place, that strip of Fisherman's Wharf was to be maintained for public use. I don't know if you've been down on that, but it's riddled with holes and deck boards missing, things like that, so nobody goes on it.
To my knowledge, when I was sitting on the St. Joe Benton Harbor River Authority Board, the question came up as to why Benton Harbor is not charging the boaters that launch in whatever it is they do, and come to find out that it belonged to the federal government.
And they are charging.
They are, okay, but they weren't being.
You just have to have a pass.
Okay, they weren't being though, because somebody was not doing their job at overseeing the goings on.
There was a period of time during COVID that they didn't charge.
This was before
Yeah.
way before COVID, this was some years. But anyway, that's good to know, but they're responsible for that, but at no time does any human being own water. Public always has access to water, and that will remain. But in respect for you being a developer and spending your money,
Sure,
I wouldn't be allowing them to
yeah, I mean,
fireworks or anything. I mean, but that's big of you to
yeah, we
do
want them to
that
use
thing
it.
and pay somebody that amount of money to clean up
We
behind
want people
somebody
to
else.
use it. We ride by there often and see people using it, we're like, that's nice that they're using it, I mean.
Yeah, but
it's-
I think sometimes all it takes is a conversation
Yeah,
with those that, because when I come down that way, I don't see a lot of activity, but
sure,
all it takes is one bad apple.
I get it.
I'd like for us to get back to the point, if we could, which is, the city is not going to recommend anything be approved on that waterfront that's private.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
not available
Sorry.
to the public, I recommend we not approve it.
Excuse me, say that, yeah, I missed that too.
I mean, if we're talking about a boardwalk that's gonna be, private on that riverfront, I'm saying,
I
we
mean,
can approve the rest of the project, we don't have to approve that.
we applied for a DEQ permit for a retaining wall. And they denied a permit for a retaining wall because you can't beautify waterfront because
Right.
this is a floodplain, right?
Right.
So the riprap that's on there, they want us to leave, but they would approve us to build out boat slips or a boardwalk, right? And if we were to put boat slips out there, I don't know if anybody travels that waterway, but that area is the deepest and the only area that you can actually get a boat through. So if we were to put out slips based on their approval, nobody's gonna go by there again without doing extensive dredging.
And that's another thing to take into consideration. The citizens of Ben Harbor, somewhere along the way, are going to be taxed to help to keep up the recreational dredging that needs to take place. That was talked about probably 15 years ago, before the St. Joe Benton Harbor River Authority dissolved. But just recently, I think we're doing something within the inner channel, in dredging.
Well, so that meeting that took place the other night at the Elks, there's a,
I have a question. And that question is, listening to Mr. Little, if you, being a developer, are thought about a retaining wall or your own boardwalk, you say you own that,
we
up to the water?
sure,
So if we were to build a boardwalk off of the walk that's already there, we'd have to build it out in the water, which is deep.
yeah, I mean, you have to build it out past the riprap, but the way it's designed is you can build back over the riprap to kind of
Well,
look,
that's what I'm saying, we're gonna work together.
yeah, to kind of look like the little boat slips on Riverview that have the boardwalk. It'd be a similar situation. To answer his question, we're, say if I build this dock out there or this boardwalk, who owns it?
Well,
Me, right?
if you built it,
Now, if the
you
city.
would, but we would have to approve it.
Could we get back on
Yeah,
point, please?
This is a site plan approval for the
Exactly.
building. We're not
Okay.
discussing.
But it's a part of it.
We're
Okay.
making sure that he knows and understands that if he wants to go beyond this, from within this.
When we
100
get
foot,
to that,
he's
we'll,
gonna have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Uh,
We know we're gonna build these condos there. This
Right.
whole water situation, this conversation that took place the other night in the meeting was that they're gonna receive money to make improvements on Riverview Drive.
Yeah.
Those improvements are for water. So if, for floods, it's a big illusion that they're gonna spend 15 million bucks and build a beautiful boardwalk from one to another. They're way short on money if they're trying to do that.
This is what the legal issue was when we asked for an opinion from the attorney.
Mhm.
Can we approve the site plan as it stands, as a site plan approval for the building and the repurposing of the building? We also made it clear to him that there was another site plan development review that could potentially take place based upon 5.4.2C. Any development on a lot or site adjacent to with frontage on or within 100 feet of Lake Michigan, Paw Paw River, St. Joe River, or Benton Harbor Canal shall be subject to the approval of a planned development plan in accordance with the procedures. So she said we could proceed with the site plan approval,
Okay,
and that's what we're talking about today.
okay,
If he wants to go further, he's gonna have to go back and request a
okay.
plan development review.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
You do understand that? Okay.
And my question is something, Mr. Little, you said that any boardwalk must be open to the public.
We will pick up the old restrictions that were there for that. But when we built the boardwalk, that's part of the marina that's there now, back in the 80s, and worked extensively with DNR regarding that, there were constraints regarding where slips could go because of just what he mentioned about the depth of the channel. Likewise, in terms of what we were doing with Boardwalk, that we insisted that all the slips could be privately owned as well as a boardwalk, as long as it was dedicated to public use. They also do the maintenance as well as the insurance on it.
The other question, Mr. Chair, Mr. Frank, in this development, are you including the boardwalk? That's going to approve the site.
No,
No,
This is
that's why we're going
Okay.
to move on to
we're trying to
the
do
building.
construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Commissioner.
Thank you. So back to the 16 condominiums, one commercial space and a restaurant. Does anyone have any questions that pertain to that?
How many business facilities are available? Because I see, the restaurant and 2 businesses.
Yeah, so we decided that, on most restaurants here locally, none of them are exceeding approximately over 4,000 square feet. That main floor is about 8,000 square feet. So there's potential that if, say, a restaurant comes along and says, hey, we only need 4,000 square feet, then we have room for a couple adjacent businesses that we don't know what they are or how they're configured. What if, in the meantime, if a big restaurant came, big seating, something like a Chili's size of a building, right? Then that would probably consume the entire main floor. So if it's a smaller,
Gotcha.
we'll have the ability to divide it up.
So,
And we're bringing power and stuff to the building with the maximum potential. So we're gonna bring it in to have it set up that way, and if we use it, we do, and if we don't, it's available.
okay, so through the chair, that is acceptable to have retail, restaurants and office space on the bottom floor, under mixed use and commercial. Is there any other problems with that?
So mixed use, and sorry, Lloyd Bent, mixed use allows for residential in a mixed use area, where this is not, this is general commercial, where you cannot have street level residential.
Well, yeah,
So that's why mixed use does not apply to this particular case, because you cannot have you can't have ground level residential in commercial.
and commercial.
So that's why this is an allowable use for upper story residential.
All right. Thank you.
One question. You mentioned there is one apartment on the 5th floor. I didn't know there was 5 floors to that building.
Yeah, so the 5th floor was, originally, this building was built obviously as a bank, right? So the 5th floor occupied 100% mechanical room only. I mean, it's a massive mechanical room,
Okay.
but it's no
There's no
longer
windows.
needed for today's technologies of maintenance and mechanical. So it's approximately a 4,000 square foot rooftop apartment,
Put one of them.
put one up there.
That'd be it.
Yeah.
We would like to move forward on the site plan approval. Is this question concerning the site plan?
It does. I think you're gonna let me know. Does any of this, listening to the mechanics that he just mentioned at one of the floors and dealing with, all the climate change with solar and all of that, are you using any of that technology to
So
energy saver?
we're not planning to use any solar. I don't know that we say that the juice isn't worth the squeeze, but, we are using as you're looking at this bank now with the type of windows that you see in it, the new configuration is completely different. So this bank, when it was built in 72, they used a lot of radiant heat, and there was, the fuel at that time in life was easy to buy, right? So they just pumped the fuel into it, and but now it'll all be rated windows and energy efficient and foam insulation and all those items. And each unit is individually metered, gas, electric, it's all
Everybody responsible for their,
exactly.
Okay, there's no more questions. I'd like to move forward with this. We get a motion to approve the
I
site
move
plan.
to approve.
support.
Motion's made by Alex, supported by Commissioner.
Chairman, can we just put in that motion that any development along the riverfront comes back in front of the planning commission with Eagle permits and any boardwalk or any docks or anything part of this motion?
So amended.
Noted and recorded.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Adams. Any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes.
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Manager Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yeah.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We would like to have commissioner comments at this time. Y'all have some brief comments relative to something that we discussed today, or if not,
I haven't come. Just to inform, as you know, we did receive a grant to fund the rezoning that was not completed on our master plan. And we'll be preparing to move forward on that very shortly. I'll be submitting a copy of the document to you, so you'll be aware of it.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bell.
First of all, thank you everyone for your vote of confidence today. Secondly, I know we discussed training in a previous meeting in May, and we were supposed to do that after these meetings, but I have not seen anything on the agenda to follow up with that. So I would really like to get something on the book.
Okay, we have newer commissioners that have not been trained recently.
I think we had,
Clerk, Moore,
Mhm.
do we have a roster of the training that has been made to date?
So we have available the Planning and Zoning Essentials, part 1 and 2, both are just over 2 hours apiece. And then we have Zoning Ordinance A to Z, which is also just over 2 hours. That's what we have available.
Is this something that we can show when we want to, or is this a class that we have to
No,
attend?
we can show it whenever we choose. It's ours. Mhm.
Okay, so those of you who have not had that training, I would strongly recommend that we make it available.
Next month.
Next month,
so,
Next month after the meeting.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can schedule it for next month if we want to do the whole 2 hours in one session. Just do part
Yes,
1, the next time do
Let's
part 2.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
because we don't have enough, this is,
So just a reminder that our next meeting isn't until August 13th due to Election Day.
motion to adjourn.
August 13th, because August 6th is the day of the normal meeting is Election Day.
Okay, and you notify us of that.
Yes.
If,
Okay, motion has been made to adjourn by Commissioner Marshall and.
Okay.
supported by
yeah,
Commissioner Adams.
if I need to, can I, she's gonna call the,
Commissioner Adams,
yes.
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Hensel,
Yes?
Commissioner Marshall,
Yes.
Manager Little, Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so
You all can talk as long as you want.
if my schedule permits, can I come in without anybody else?